Alright everybody, welcome back to another video with Chris. Hopefully the sound is okay. I recently just got a new mic, so hopefully everything sounds good. I'm going to test it before we upload the video, but it should sound pretty good. Hopefully better than before. So today I have a video that I've wanted to make for a while. This is probably going to be a pretty long video, but we're going to build Syn Xeno for the current format. Now this is a deck, if you guys have followed the channel at all, if you guys know anything about me, this is my favorite deck in the entire game. I would consider this my deck. I would say that this is my deck. I think I have the 2 highest tops with the deck. I've probably played it more than anybody else in the entire community, at least from what I've been told. This is you can kind of consider this my deck, or at least the deck that is, whenever you look at my YouTube or you talk to me in at locals, this is the deck that I'm generally known for. I personally think this is a untouchable deck in the format. Has been. This deck is incredibly good. This deck has almost 0 bad matchups, and realistically, and this is not to sound egotistical or cocky or anything else like that, so hopefully people don't take it this way, but generally the games that I have lost with this deck have been because of my own accord. It's nothing to do with what my opponent does. It's generally a mistake that I make. And when you make a mistake with this deck, it is very easy to sort of plunge in and punish a Syn Xeno player if they do misplay. So you do have to basically play perfect almost the entire game, which is not as hard as you would think it is. This deck has a lot of utility other than just milling your opponent. You can basically just sap resources from your opponent, and it feels so good. It feels so good to play this deck. So we're going to go over what a kind of a list would look like, and realistically this may be the closest list to what I would be playing for store champs and other things like that. I don't care if someone knows what list I'm playing, so if people watch this and they want to study how to beat me, I don't care. Honestly, this list, it doesn't matter what if you know the list or not. You have to actually know what the cards do in the moment. This deck has a lot of text, so if you want to study it, that's up to you guys. But for people who want to play this list, this is probably going to be your best guide on how to play it, because I don't think I've actually broke down the cards in this sort of format that I'm going to be doing here. So hopefully you guys like the video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications if you guys like the content. Hopefully you guys like these sort of in-depth videos too. Some of these I will be a little more in-depth than I would with others, just because I've had a lot more experience playing them. So take that as you will. So this is essentially a mill deck. However, there are a lot of matchups where you don't have to mill your opponent out. Any deck that is green or black, you actually are playing more of an aggro deck. Or if they're playing a very heavy control deck, you definitely can aggro them down with the amount of keyword skills you have on your battle cards. You can push for game very, very early, turn 3, turn 4, if you are playing the deck properly. I've killed people actually on turn 3 with Syn, with not even milling them out. So it's definitely possible. You just have to know how to play the deck, essentially. So we will start with battle cards. We're going to start with Unison. So we'll just pop in our 4 Toa. This is the Unison you need to be playing. Do not play any other Unison. You are playing the deck wrong if you play in any other Unison other than Toa. Currently, this is the only Unison we are going to play until a better Unison comes out, which I doubt there will be a Unison that works with the deck as well as Toa does. Also, Toa is searchable and playable off of a card, so there's no reason for us to run anything else. So we are going to pump into the battle cards, because battle cards are where this deck sort of alters from deck video to deck video, at least from what I've seen. In most lists, so you should be running 60 cards. That is for one. No exception. You run 60 cards. But I've seen more of a 60-40 split on extra cards and battle cards, where most people are running more extra cards than they are battle cards, and that's actually the wrong way of playing this deck. We want to be around 18 18 extra cards is roughly where you want to be at, and the reason is, so if you guys know what the deck does, the deck mills itself, the deck also cycles, and you have a lot of scrying effects. So like you have Oceanus, you have ultimate Ice Ray, which is going to be a great card for the, obviously a staple for the deck. This guy, where you pitch black cards from your hand, you want to pitch battle cards because this is being pitched off of a Shadow Dragon skill. So that means you get to scry the top card of your deck, and it just allows you to cycle cards from your hand without you missing anything. Also, because our Unison cycles back extra cards, the ratio of extra cards per battle card will eventually kind of flip-flop the other way. So if you have a deck with, let's say you have 4 Unisons, so that's 4 slots obviously taken up right there. Let's say you have like 30, we'll just say like 30 battle cards, right? Or 40 battle cards, right? And then you take out the 4 from that, you're at what, 16 extra cards, right? As the game goes on, those battle cards are going to be in the drop area, and those extra cards are going to just steadily, they may go down obviously a little bit, but it's going to steadily kind of balance each other out to where you're going to have a lot of extra cards in your deck. And because you're putting back up to 3 cards every single turn. So it's going to, at some point, get to the point where you're not going to have any battle cards, and that's generally where the deck runs out of gas because you're running out of combo power, essentially, because you have all these extra cards. So running less extra cards is actually a good thing because you'll just end up cycling them back into your deck. So first thing, we're going to go over the extra cards and kind of what we want to run here. So we're going to run Ultimate Minus Ball. This is your amazing counterattack that you have, warping things 15k or less. A lot of the decks you're going to play against are going to have battle cards 15k or less. This also allows you to deal with aggro pretty well because you can just remove any 15k crit, double strike, whatever it is. If they try to remove your Unison, you can always block with your leader, and then you can pop this, and then next attack block with your leader. Like, you have a lot of things you can do with it. It also pumps your leader or battle card 15k, and as well, just for make sure, every time you activate an extra card, your opponent will mill 1. So just keep that in mind. The limit 1 is only on the activate main battle, not on the counterattack. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So you can activate this as many times as you want. So we're going to run 3 in the main board. That's generally the amount that I run. So in the current format, Ultimate Ice Ray is probably the best 2-drop extra card. You have 4 2-drop extra cards, I believe. 4? No, 3. You have 3. Yeah, you have the 3. Sorry. Out of these 3, this is definitely the best one for the current format. Activate Mana Battle. Your opponent places the top card of their deck in the drop. So any of the 2-drop extra cards, so this, Dragon Tackle, and Flame Shot, your opponent also mills off of this. So when you activate this off your leader, they mill 2. If you use the 4-drop Syn, they mill 3. Not 4, they mill 3. But additionally, if you choose 2 black cards in your hand and discard them, if you do, your opponent can only attack with battle cards 1 more time for the turn. So essentially giving you a mini Flying Nimbus type of thing, right? That also cycles 2 cards from your hand, and they and they mill 2 cards. So this card is very, very good. Any deck that's very aggro with battle cards, you play this out, and it just kind of stops their turn. Then you can Oceanus or do another negate on top of that, just to kind of stop the other attack. It can really slow down your opponent. So we're going to end up chucking 3 of these bad boys in the main deck, and then 1 Ultimate Dragon Tackle in the main deck. We would always side the second one. This is only active if your opponent has a Unison in play. But your opponent mills, your opponent may choose one of their Unisons and take 2 markers off it. If they don't, you draw a card and warp one of their battle cards. So why this is good, at least as a one-of, right? If your opponent decides they want to go all in with the Unison, right? Let's say they arrival something, like, so they have a second attack afterwards. Or if they attack with their Unison and they haven't, let's say they minus on the Unison to give it some sort of effect, right? You play this, they mill 1. The opponent takes off 2 markers. This could A, kill the Unison, B, take a marker off so it loses whatever skills that it has. And if they don't do that, you get to draw a card, right? That's really good. That's probably the best part, is the fact you can activate this for free off your leader and then just draw a card. Because your opponent's more likely not going to take the markers off, especially if they're going in with it. But also on offense, this card's very good. So decks that have +2 Unisons, or they have a Unison that's very, very powerful, let's say like a blue Boo Unison, you can swing into the Boo Unison. Your leader is a 10k combo on the Awakened side here. So you swing into the Unison, they'll say no negates or whatever. You swing into the Unison, and then you activate this, then prompting them to take off 2 markers, right? And there's some plays we're going to show you where this card actually becomes very useful. And decks where your opponent's going to play a big Unison, you're just going to side this one or another one in. But 1 in the main deck is fine. Again, as I told you, we're trying to keep the amount of extra cards slimmed down. So we're actually going to take out the Toa. here just so you can see how many extra cards we have total. So we have 7 here. So next we're gonna pick out the two, probably the two of the most important extra cards in the deck. One is going to be Ultimate Whirlwind Spin. The other one is going to be Negative Energy Explosion, which is not on here because it doesn't have Ultimate in the name. So we'll go over that afterwards. This is your drawing a battle card. So this searches top 5 for any Shadow Dragon battle card. If you run the yellow-black Syn Secret Rare, this can search that out, but we don't run that. Second effect, you can choose a Shadow Dragon card in your hand and pitch it. If you do, your leader gets 1k for the turn. Why this is good? This is a Sensu Bean against red decks on defense. So you activate this on defense, you draw a card, and then you pitch a card, which then will give you a 1k bump. Now remember, if you pitch a Shadow Dragon battle card, this is a Shadow Dragon effect, meaning you get to pitch the card and then cycle another card into your hand. So you're not losing a card, you're just cycling a card and you're gaining 1k for the turn, making you 15, if you're awakened, this is a 16k, if you're unawakened, this is 11k. It's much better if you're awoken, obviously, and you definitely probably are going to get awoken pretty early if you so choose. But having kind of an interesting bean effect on your defensive turn is actually very good. Forces your opponent to combo an extra card from their hand just to get over that, so that's pretty good. And as a 2 of, again, because the battle card amount is going to shift as we get into turn 5, 6 plus, so you don't want to be running a lot of this card because this card actually can brick sometimes as you're going into late game, especially with this build. So we don't actually need we're not gonna need 4. So the other one is negative energy explosion. So this is a 4 of. This is a staple for the deck. You search top 7 for an extra card, or if you do not have a Unison in play, you get to play out the Toa with 1 marker on it. So this is very good if you don't see a Unison turn 1. This is a effect to be able to play out a Unison turn 1. So what we do is this is essentially like running 8 Unisons kind of in the deck. You play this, you're more likely going to see Unison off the top 7. If you don't, it's very unfortunate, but it does happen. But we run 4 of this guy. This guy also becomes very good later in the game because we're going to have a lot of extra cards in our deck. This is also the number 1 turn 2 charge in the deck. I've told a lot of people who've asked me how to play this deck, you want to charge your first 3 charges, you should be charging two extra cards. Especially extra cards that you are running 4 or 3 of, because you're going to be able to see the other ones later on in the game. So don't feel bad for charging one of these extra cards. Generally, if I have one of these in my hand on turn 1, I'll charge it because I know I'm probably going to see another one, or I'm probably going to see a Unison, right? There are times where I do that and then I draw the top card off my deck, or I scry and it's a Toa and I'm like, well, I should just play negative energy. But that's part of the RNG. So this guy here is the other 4 of in the deck. Negative energy charge. This is the promo. If you guys don't have it, definitely get it. I think the deck is, you need to play this card at a 4 of. If you don't have 4 of this card, it's not being played to its highest competitive level. So it is a counter attack. You negate the attack. You add up to 1 Dragon Ball. It doesn't actually work because none of our cards in this deck are actual Dragon Ball cards, so it doesn't actually matter. So, but the top part is a negate. This card also counts as a Shadow Dragon, so you can scry it, you can search it, with all that stuff. When you negate, your opponent has to mill the card. Also very good. Second effect, this is your activate mana battle. You send 7 cards from your drop to your warp. You activate the negative energy explosion, or the negative energy overflow secret rare, which is the one right here. You guys can see this guy right. Let's get right here. Yeah, this is the negative energy explosion secret rare, so that's a pretty cool card. You also can play out the smoke dragon. Ooh. You also can play out the smoke dragon if you tap 4, and you can play it out from your deck or your hand. So I will go over the differences between those when we get to the end, but there are benefits to running both secret rares. So don't just think because smoke dragon is completely broken, which it is, that it is the better option. So right now we are at 17 extra cards. So that is a pretty high amount, right? I told you guys I wanted to be around that 18 mark. And we're basically there. I think we're going to be 1 card over because we are going to run 2 Ultimate Dragon Quakes in the main. So that brings us to 19. So very, very close to that 20 mark. I think this is probably good. You can maybe shave off one of these, but I'm always just running at 4. So 18, 19, this is probably the best spread you're going to do for the extra cards. This guy allows you to warp any battle card higher than your opponent's energy cost, and then at the end of the turn, well, actually when this card is activated, at the end of the turn, if your opponent has 15 cards or fewer in their deck, card goes to the drop instead of being played. Very powerful. Just allows you to kill secret rares, kill anything. If your opponent decides to try to all-in you, you have a free way of just getting rid of something, and it's hilarious when people try to all-in you and you just quake, and you just look at their face and they're just like, alright, I guess I lose, right? Ultimate Dragon Slaying Bull. You're probably wondering, why is this on the main deck? Why is this on the main deck? This card's so good. This card's absolutely busted. However, it actually is clunky in the main deck. You do not need to run this card in the main deck. Especially we are in best of one, so you can just side it, right? But also because of our spread. We are at 19. We do not want to go over 20 extra cards. You do not want to go over 20. It just does not feel as good. So this is definitely going to be a card that's going in the side deck. For future, I can't even spell dragon right. Jeez. For future usage, it's just gonna go right in the side deck. And if you guys don't know what this card does, your opponent plays a Unison. They may take 2 markers off or put in the drop area for every card in their drop and warp. If they don't, your opponent gets attacked one more time. It's very, very good, but it's also not very good. You need it in very particular situations and also very particular matchups, which is why I'm gonna go on the side. Has a secondary effect. It works as a remote serious bomb, where your opponent chooses one of their battle cards and warps it. It's okay. The counterattack effect is amazing, but again, it's only really good in particular matchups. Now we're going to go into the, I'm just going to add the Unison here real quick, since we have added our cards. And now we will go into the battle cards, right? This is the easy part, you would think. I've seen a lot of interesting builds where people are running some very questionable ratios, and we're going to talk about that and fix that, so if you guys can pilot this deck a little bit better. First thing is going to be Oceanus, where we are going to run 4. Very easy. This card is a Floodgate. There are only 2 cards in the format currently that hit this card in the current format. Making of this video, I should say. We have Vegeta Resolve Renewed. Card hits it. We also have Cooler Counter. Card hits it. Those are the only 2 cards in the current format that are relevant that hit this card. There are other cards that hit this card, yes I know, but they are not played in the top meta decks, so they are not as important. Tyrannical Blow does not hit this card. Don't let people tell you it does. It does not hit this card. I have failed in that regard. I've been told that it did. I believe the person, went back after the event, realized it did not. So I've had people tell me this also does, and then they've told other people that it doesn't. So people at my locals in that situation. But yeah, this card does not get hit by T-Blow for the first effect. The second effect, where this card is played, you get to scry and add a card to your hand. It does hit that, does hit the blocker, but it does not stop the milling effect. So this card is going to come in, and your opponent's going to have to mill 4 cards every time they attack. This is kind of your secondary option for defense, right? Our first option for defense is activating Ice Ray, and then secondly, we'll then be using an Oceanus behind it. Sometimes you can just go right in the Oceanus if you feel comfortable enough with it, especially turn 2, turn 3. You're going to throw down an Oceanus. They will not attack anymore. If they do, they are crazy. And people take the Oceanus challenge, and it always ends badly. So if they take the Oceanus challenge, let them, right? You have the ability to survive, even if you tap out for this. It's very easy to survive in a lot of cases. Your opponent's just going to keep milling and milling and milling and milling, and then eventually they're just going to be down too many cards and the game's over. So so 2 of the biggest decks in the format right now, Trunks Vegeta and Gamma, are probably the 2 biggest decks in the format, right? And right behind them would be U7. Gamma has no answer for this. They have answers that they could run. However, is it worth the side deck spot for this card? I would say no. Trunks Vegeta has a great answer for this, which is Cooler Counter. However, are they going to want to tap out on turn 3 to stop this? Tap out on turn 4 to stop this? Probably not. They may do it, but that doesn't mean they actually really kind of did anything, right? They just stop this from hitting the board, and then we have other tricks that we can do that they can't really stop. So we run 4 of this. Because Gamma is so popular, and I respect Gamma so much, we're going to run 2 of the Negative Energy Explosion. This is a 4-drop Deflect Double Strike Barrier Blocker. Big guy. We're going to run 2 of this guy. Also, you can Spirit Boost to make your opponent mill a card. This card will restand if it is not restood already, and you can activate an extra card from your hand for free. Very similar to your leader. So if you activate a 2-drop extra card, let's go back here. All the way back. So if you activate this guy here, or this guy here off of the 4-drop, they will mill 1 card for this, 1 card for the 4-drop, and then 1 card for your leader, making this a 0 cost mill 3 play, which is incredibly powerful. Other matchups is not great. Like green, it's okay. Red, it's okay unless you think they're gonna drop Vegeta. If they drop Vegeta, the card's bad. But blue, it's very, very good. Black, it's very good. Yeah. So, yellow, it's kind of iffy because they can Final Flash it. So, it's a strange situation there, but you kind of just have to play it, right? Nova. We'll just go down the list here because it's actually pretty easy. Nova is going to be a 3 of. We do not Nova turn 1 or turn 2 unless you can awaken. The idea of Nova is to find 2 cards particularly. That is it. This is to find 2 particular cards. This is to find your Oceanus Negate or your Oceanus Super Combo. That is it. Or you can use it. I mean, you can use it to find other pieces, but generally you're using it to find those 2 cards. Those are the most important 2 battle cards you have in the entire deck, and that's what this card is used for. Also, we only run 3 because it gets Cloggy at 4. It only is once per turn. And also, this card does burst a card. So what happens is you may burst a Unison, or you may burst your Secret Rare. We do not want to do that. You want to hold your bursting effect and using this until you know where your Secret Rare is. Whether it is in your hand, or you just drew it off of your off of your Toa, or you scried and then you saw it on the top of the scry, so it went to the bottom of your deck. Then you can safely use this and then, shuffle your deck up, right? But once I have my Secret Rare in my hand, or I know where it is, I would use this comfortably. But other than that, it's not great. You don't want to be using this every turn. It is a good attacker. It is a 20k crit. So in some matchups you will play it, but other ones it's just really just used for that. Also just used for pitching fodder off of your Oceanus and other things like that. We have Darkness Absorbed Omega. This is your Dark Broly card. You play it for 1 to warp any battle card. Comes in for 1 if you sack a 5 or less dragon, which is almost every card in the entire deck. Also draws you a card as well. So we're going to run 3 of this guy. He is unique, so we don't need to run 4. 3 is the most you'll need to run of this guy. Omega Ultimate Darkness. This is your 30k triple strike. You play for 2 when you warp 7 dragons from your drop. Now, because our win condition... One of our big win conditions is based off of the negative energy charge effect, which allows you to draw off of this guy, or use this guy here. Allows you to draw. We do not want to just willy-nilly just mill our cards and use this -7 effect. It's not that good. So after the Omega, we don't really want to be running this card in the main deck. This card has 2 purposes. And it's for the black and green matchups. We'll play this. Green matchups is great because it gets around Charismatic. Gets around the cooler deck where they play the Unison that also kills stuff 7 or less. So this card's amazing in green. They're gonna Dormant. They're gonna Homicidal Clones, whatever. But it's gonna get a card out of their hand. It's a very, very powerful card. You can use this to kill green decks. This card, Power of Darkness, Syn Shenron, aka... Syn Shenron, aka Black New Ruler is what I like to call this card. You play it out for 1 if you Spirit Boost, or if you take a marker off your Unison using a Spirit Boost, you play it for 1. Then your opponent mills a card. This card is incredible. So the combos you can do. You can swing, you can activate this on offense, or you can activate like Whirlwind Spin or Negative Energy, and then play this guy here, right? So you activate one of these, they mill off of the effect, whether it's they mill off this and your leader or just off your leader. Then you play this, then they'll mill a second one, right? Or a third one, depending on which one you do. Then you get to draw, do this effect here, shuffle, and then you get to draw off of the Syn. It's a very powerful card. 20k double strike, limit 1. This card is a savage. Very, very good. Very, very good. Definitely something that you should be looking to play as a 4 of. Do not run anything less than this because you're not playing it correctly. This needs to be a 4 of if you're playing the deck. It says low playability here. These people are crazy. They don't actually play the deck. It is an absolute staple. This card is an absolute unit. I will vote this card 1,000,000 times. It's an absolute unit card. For super combo, you play Oceanus. It's searchable. It's scrying effects, whatever. You're going to be running it. Sparking 5. People forget this is a Sparking 5 super combo, not a 4 or less, which makes this card incredibly good when you're playing aggro. You get a lot of cards in your drop area. This card becomes live. The secondary effect, where you can shove this underneath your leader, underneath your unison to uptick it and draw a card. Essentially, when you spirit boost, making this a free spirit boost and a draw, actually does come up. There are some matchups where you're not going to be using your super combos as much because you're not going to be getting to the combo set that much. So you actually can afford to do that once or twice. Maybe not all 4 times, but maybe once or twice just to keep your card's spirit boost effect up. It's pretty good. Haze. So this is kind of the black horse of the deck, and this is where I think if you're playing this deck, this card in particular is what separates a really good Syn player from someone who doesn't know how to play the deck. So let me talk to you about this. So it is a crit blocker. It's a 15k. It warps something on swing and restands at the end at the end of the turn. That is a fantastic card, right? However, if we just look at the 3 best decks in the format, right? Gamma, U7, Trunks Vegeta, right? So you play this against Trunks Vegeta. It's going to come in rest mode, and then it's not going to restand. So it doesn't get the restand because it didn't attack, and it's not warping anything because it didn't attack, right? So it's a dead card. Play this in the Gamma. This card is getting sent to the bottom of the deck via Android 18. It's not gonna hit the board. It's not gonna do anything. That is probably the only matchup where it does possibly make sense because you can bait out the Android 18. But if you don't have a card to bait out the Android 18, you're playing this just hardballing it. It's not great, right? You have other cards that can do very similar things you can play for the same amount of energy. No reason to play Haze. Any red deck that you play, whether it's GT Goku, whether it's Bulma, whether it is U7 Goku, they all have a card that says when you play this card, or if you're playing a card, neg it by 15 plus, right? You have 15, you have 20k. It's just going to die. It's not going to get any effects off. So why play this card, right? Do not play this card. Take my word for it, please. Do not test with this card. Don't play it. There will be a format where this card will be good again. And generally, formats where mid-range is not as good, which mid-range has been good for a very long time, but in formats where mid-range is not very good, this card could thrive a little bit. But currently, with the way that the game is played right now, it's not very good. If there's a way to cheat this card out later on in the game, maybe we get a TP or something else that works, maybe. Currently, not very good, so do not play this card. Now, the substitute for this card is going to be this Nova here. So this is a 16k crit. Remind you, a 16k crit. So what this does, this gets around Yamcha. This gets around the U7 Goku counterplay. This also gets around Vegeta Resolved Renewed, because this is a 16k, not a 15k. Why would you not play it, right? Second thing, it is a 16k crit. So if it does not die, you can swing. Tack some super combo on it, right? Tack the 15k extra card, right? You have different things you could do. It's going to hit, or if they just leave it alone, right? Because it's a 16k, they know they can't kill it. It's great. 16k crit. It gets over, it makes them combo a card, right? Secondary effect. If your leader is a black Shadow Dragon, when this card is played, play up to 1 Toa Unison from your drop area with a marker on it. Now this has 2 different implications to it, which is why we're going to play it. We're going to tech it in as a 2 of right now. Reason why we play this card. 2 different reasons. 1, this does not say if you don't have a Toa in play. Meaning, if we already use our +1 and our Toa has like maybe 1 marker on it, right? Or 2 markers on it, and we don't feel like we just need to cycle more cards, right? You can play this and then just play a Toa from your drop area, replacing the Toa that you already had in play. So the Toa will come in with 1 marker on it, you can uptick it, and then you have a newly fresh unison where you can shuffle more extra cards into your drop area. It's really good against mill. If you're playing a counter mill deck, whether you're playing another Syn deck, or you're playing Janempa mill, coolers, I guess sometimes, you can just play out a second one of these, and then cycle 3 more cards back into your deck. It's very, very good for that. Second effect, you can -7 on this guy, and play 7 Shadow Dragons from your drop or your hand. This effect does not say when it is played from your hand, it just says when it's played. So if you do play this card from your hand, you get to draw off the top effect here and scry. Then you get to play your unison out. If you play this from the drop area, you can still play your unison out. Essentially meaning you can -7 on this and then get your unison back with a marker on it. And then you can still uptick and cycle 3 cards. It's very, very good. I don't know why people don't play it. I don't know why. I think it's because they see all the keyword skills on this guy and they just think he's really, really good. This is by far the worst card you can run in the deck. So do not run this card in the deck right now. Run this guy. You can run it as a 2 of or a 3 of. Test it out. But definitely you're going to want to run this card. Next on the list, we'll keep going down. So we have the 1-drop Shenrons. You have Haze, Syn, and Natron. So Haze is the guy who plays out all of your 3 costs. We want to run 4 of him. He is kind of a bait. People are going to want to kill this card because of what the effect does. This card actually really sucks. I don't like it. I wish all of the 3 drops can just be played for 1 energy instead of having this card on the field, but it is what it is. But so you have to run 4 of this guy. You need to run 4 of it. Eventually later on in the game I end up charging 1 of these if I see too many of them, because it just becomes dead later on. But 1, you definitely want to keep 1 so you can play it. Natron has a similar effect to the Nova. Whenever this card is played, you add 1 extra card from your drop area to your hand. So if you -7 on your Unison, you can play this guy out from the drop or your hand, and then you can draw the effect. Now this card actually doesn't give you a scry effect when it's played, only when it's pitched by a Shadow Dragon effect, or discarded I should say. So you play from the drop area, you get to add an extra card back to your hand, so that's a +2. You get a battle card, you get 5k combo power back, and then you get a card back to your hand. So it's very, very good. Syn has been something that I've been testing recently, and this card has the same effect as your leader does. Allows you to activate an extra card. Now, against aggro matchups, this card is actually absolutely nuts, because you can uptake your Unison. So turn 2, you can play this guy, uptake your Unison, Spirit Boost, activate an extra card, and then play this guy out for 1. So you're getting a 20k dual attack on turn 2. And then your opponent has to kind of remove this card, or else it's just going to sit there and just keep reoccurring value. Also later on, this card can also be used as a secondary or a 3rd mill tactic. Because you have your 4-drop and you have your leader Spirit Boost effect, you can also play this card to Spirit Boost another time, which then could end up winning you the game. So we're going to end up taking in 2 of those into the Natron. Ice Shenron here is an interesting card. It's a barrier blocker that restands at the end of the turn. This card's very good into green. It's very good into yellow as well, because you play this into Trunks Vegeta. They can't tap it unless they steadfast. But we're going to just tech 1 in for now, just because I don't know if we're going to have room. We have 6 more slots. We have Natron, which is probably my favorite 3-drop other than the Black New Ruler, because this guy has Deflect. So what happens is, your opponent, you tap 1, you tap Haze, your opponent has to counter in counter window 1, and if you're playing against a yellow or actually a yellow, red, or a green deck, yellow, red, or blue, they have to counter, they have to counter in counter window 1. So you have Yamcha, you have Vegeta Resolve Renewed, you have God Sealing, you have Steadfast, right? You have all these cards that your opponent can activate. You have T-Blow, right? So they can do that. This card will come into play, which is fantastic. It's got Deflect, so it's not going to get hit by any of those skills. So your opponent has to blindly counterplay this 3-drop coming into play. And you can play any of these 3-drops. So you can actually bait out, let's say they think you're going to play this stupid card for some reason, you can just play this out, right? Or they think you're going to play this, so then they say no counters, and then you just play something else. And then next time you're going to do it, they're going to probably have to God Sealing it, right? Second effect is you get to choose a 5 or less battle card on board or in the drop area and gain a keyword skill to the end of your next turn. So what's very cool is that against green decks, this is a very cool thing against green decks. So a lot of green decks run the Zamasu fused, the Deity's Wrath guy with Indestructible. So let's say they have a Deity's Wrath in the drop area, right? You play this card, your opponent decides the charismatic villain, right? Your auto will trigger first, so you actually can choose the Zamasu in the drop area, gain Indestructible, and then they can't kill your Natron. It's a very cool effect. You also can do this with Barrier. So if you actually play against Trunks Vegeta, you play this card in active mode. Trunks Vegeta auto will go into pending. Your pending auto will then trigger first and resolve. You can choose a 1-drop Trunks Vegeta from the drop area, then gain Barrier. Then they can't choose this card and put it in rest mode. It is fantastic. It's a hilarious interaction that most people probably haven't noticed because they don't play the deck or they don't play against it a lot to know what this card actually does. This card is incredibly good. It's also good for just clearing board, right? You play this card, your opponent has a battle card on board, you suck that battle card up, you swing this into another battle card. Very, very good effect. Definitely something you guys should be using if you're playing this deck. 3 of for sure. Potentially a 4 of. Potentially a 4 of if we get more blue in the format. I can definitely see this card going up to 4. Last 3 spots. So we have 2 Rage, Power of Darkness. This is your other battle card negate. It's a 1 cost if you have 7 or more, and it's played in rest mode. Why this is good, because you can play this card in rest mode, and it triggers Poutine, and it triggers Trunks, so they can't actually tap down anything to play like a Bergamo or whatever. Or like if you play this, and you play this into like a Vegeta Trunks, and they have a Trunks on board, you play this, they can't Poutine off of it. You're just going to play it in rest mode, and you just have to let them know, like, hey, it comes into rest mode, so you can't actually tap anything. Also allows you to cycle a card. The permanent on this card is also very interesting. So this card comes in for 1 energy if you have 7 dragons in the drop area. This is not just on your opponent's turn, this is also on your turn as well. So it's kind of like a Mecha Frieza Robotic Riposte, where you can play the card on your turn for 1 energy. The card also cycles you a card. You can have it standing for a blocker, or you can use this card as a swing, go into your 8 drop. You have different things you can do with it on there. Now we have 1 slot left, and this slot can for sure just be used for anything else in the deck, but we're just going to tech in another ice just so we have 2 of them, rounding out our 60 cards here. So this is kind of what the main deck should look like. I'm sorry, we forgot 1 card. I am BSing you guys. I apologize. So we need to add a secret rare. Right? We need to add a secret rare. Secret rare is important. So we're actually going to go down on the ice, go down to 1. And we're going to pull out our secret rare. So you have the 2 secret rares you can choose from, because we can play both of these secret rares off of negative energy charge. So we have Black Smoke. Right? Black Smoke is an incredible card. I love this card with all my heart. This card, I have won so many games off this card. And not even just for the milling effect, right? Because you warp the top 7 cards of your opponent's deck and you draw 2. But you can warp 4 cards from your opponent's hand. You can warp your entire opponent's board. That's incredible. That's incredible value. The one problem with this card is that you need to make sure that it's in your deck or in your hand. If this card's in your life and you tap 4 for it, you basically just lose the game. So there's a little trick that I found out. So with this card, you have 2 different effects on here, right? Send 7 from the drop to the warp. You can choose 1. So if you pay 4, you're going into the Black Smoke. You also can just search your deck and activate up to 1 negative energy overflow, then shuffle your deck. So if you are running Black Smoke and not Energy Overflow, you can actually search through your deck to find the Black Smoke. If Black Smoke is in there, you shuffle your deck. You can activate this card again, because this card's not limit 1. This is the only Shadow Dragon extra card that is not limit 1. It's a fantastic effect, right? I think I learned about it at the last round of Origins. I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know you could do that. It's not something that's going to come up a lot, because you're more likely going to see your secret, whether you're going to mill it, whether you're going to see it, you're going to draw it in your hand, or you're going to cycle it off the top of something. You're going to see it, right? And most of the time you're not going to mill it, and most of the time it will be in your deck, but you never know. You do not want to tap 4 and not feel comfortable enough to search your deck and find Black Smoke, right? Unless you know that it's there. So Black Smoke obviously is probably the #1 contender, as you would think, right? However, the negative energy overflow of card is actually really cracked and definitely deserves some respect, and can be used in the deck as an alternative or just as a primary secret rare. Reduce the energy cost of the card in your hand by 1 for each battle card in your drop area. Now, as you know, we put a lot of battle cards in our drop area from all of our effects. What's cool about this is we can play this card for 0 energy, right? And Syn's biggest threat has always been barrier cards, and it's always been 2 cards particularly, which is going to be the Lord Slug Super Namekian and the Goku Absolute Annihilation. These are the 2 cards. If you board these 2 cards on board, Syn can essentially not do anything. You just can't do anything. All your extra cards cost 1 more. You can't scry and search cards on top of your deck. It essentially just shuts down the entire deck, right? What's cool about this card is we actually can use this card. I'm going to cycle it here into the deck. We actually can use this card off of the negative energy effect, right? So you can actually pay 1 for this card, right? Or you Spirit Boost and pay 1. You send 7 cards from your drop to your warp, and you activate this card from your deck. This card can only be activated from the deck. It's not your hand, but if you have it in your hand, you're just going to activate it for free anyways, right? So it doesn't really matter. But we're going to pay 0 energy for this card almost every single time, unless there's an Absolute Annihilation on board. And if you read this card, it says at the end of this turn, choose all battle cards ignoring barrier and place them in the owner's drop area. So this is not a KO effect. This is just a removing effect, right? But this is really cool because you can just wipe an entire board. It's incredible what this card can actually do. Like if you do a bunch of stuff and your opponent plays a bunch of battle cards on your turn, or if you're like, you know what, I don't know what I can do next turn, you just wipe their board. You just go, all right, activate, pass, warp your board, or you know, send your whole board to the drop area, right? This is a very good effect, especially since they get through barrier. So currently right now, Black Smoke is sort of a win more card. This does have a timer on it essentially, because once your opponent gets under, we'll say 8 cards, 9 cards in deck, this card essentially just wins you the game. So if you have Black Smoke, play Black Smoke, right? However, there's nothing wrong with playing this card. You just have to play a little bit differently. You can't play for the tap 4 instant win right here, right? But the problem with Black Smoke is that you have to play this card and you have to win that turn. If you do not win that turn, you put yourself in a very serious situation when you don't have the ability to win, and it can end up costing you the game. Right now, there's chances where like you board this card, you wipe your opponent's whole hand away or something, and now they don't have anything to do next turn. That's fair, right? But generally, it is actually better just to mill them out on that particular turn if you have the ability to do that. So you kind of have your choice here. I'm going to put negative energy as kind of the main one because of the problem that you have with your the secret cards that beat this deck. This card just allows you to just continue playing your game, and you're not tapping for a potential winning the game, right? You have to win the game on that turn, and if you can, it's great. I've done it. You know, there's nothing wrong with running the Black Smoke. This card just feels a little bit better in the overall grand scheme of things of being this deck and being a competitive deck. Black Smoke is definitely just like a shotgun, like, hey, you have 9 cards in deck. Spirit Boost going to make you mill 1 and going to play this card. We're going to make you mill 7, and then we're going to pass. You're going to lose because you're going to draw 1 card, right? But sometimes you actually don't even need Black Smoke to win. There's games where I actually don't need Black Smoke to win. So this card's also very good. So I'm going to say definitely just, you know, if you have negative energy overflow, use it. If you want to test with Black Smoke as well, there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, I played Black Smoke at Origins. I probably will be playing Black Smoke a lot, but I have been testing with this, and it does feel very good. So it definitely is a good contender. So this is kind of a list what I think would be good right now in the current format. Side deck stuff we're not going to go over because that can change depending on you know, lists and what ends up becoming popular and what doesn't. So check this out. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Let me know what you guys want to see next time in the next mid or meta deck series poll that we will be doing probably next week. I'll probably do it on like a Sunday or a Monday. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.